Yeah, this is a really fascinating one. Again, Twitter whistleblower handlers played a key role in facilitating the sham Trump impeachment. What's going on here? Whistleblower aid is funded by a notorious left-wing billionaire.
Is this the ketchup lady?
No, not that one.
You get to talk about ketchup?
No.
Damn.
So,
well, what am I supposed to do with all this ketchup? God.
What? The dossier and
I brought the ketchup here just for the ketchup.
I don't get that one, but okay. A bipartisan panel in Congress convened last Tuesday to bring forward an alleged Twitter whistleblower by the name of Peter Mudge Zatko. What a weird name. Former executive at the social media giant, right? Zatko, who previously had been employed at Google and DARPA, among other high-profile organizations and Fed, hurled all kinds of accusations at Twitter, alleging one major scandal after another. What's going on here? Now, again, I brought this up.
The ketchup lady, do you just to be clear that Indy doesn't follow mainstream news enough to know the ketchup lady. They talked about Trump throwing ketchup all over the White House because he got mad.
Oh yes,
when they talked about him in the van.
I do remember that whole
trying to
ordeal.
Choke the Secret Service guy from the back.
Okay, I do remember that too. Kind of
choking works.
Okay, so here we go. Finally, sorry about all that. I do have the video ready and queued up, and I believe this will work, and you'll be able to hear it. And go. No?
I think your microphone may need...
There it is.
Oh, he's muted.
Thank you very much, sir. Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Grassley, members of the committee, I appear before you today to answer questions about information I submitted in written disclosures about cybersecurity concerns I observed while working at Twitter. My name is Peter Zatko, but I'm more often referred to by my online handle as Mudge. For 30 years, my mission has been to make the world better by making it more secure. From November 2020 until January 2022, I was a member of Twitter's executive team. In my role, I was responsible for information security, privacy engineering, physical security, information technology, and Twitter global support. I'm here today because Twitter leadership is misleading the public, lawmakers, regulators, and even its own board of directors. What I discovered when I joined Twitter was that this enormously influential company was over a decade behind industry security standards. The company's cybersecurity failures make it vulnerable to exploitation, causing real harm to real people. And when an influential media platform can be compromised by teenagers, thieves, and spies, and the company repeatedly creates security problems on their own, this is a big deal for all of us. When I brought concrete evidence of these fundamental problems to the executive team and repeatedly sounded the alarm of the real risks associated with them, and these were problems brought to me by the engineers and employees of the company themselves, the executive team chose instead to mislead its board, shareholders, lawmakers, and the public instead of addressing them. This leads to two obvious questions. Why did they do that? And what were the problems and vulnerabilities identified? And that's what I'm here to talk about. So first, why did they do that? To put it bluntly, Twitter leadership ignored its engineers because key parts of leadership lacked the competency to understand the scope of the problem, but more importantly, their executive incentives led them to prioritize profits over security. Upton Sinclair famously said, "It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it." This mentality is exactly what I saw at the executive level at Twitter.
I just want to mention that's one of my favorite all-time quotes, that Upton Sinclair thing. And it's also a quote that was famously used by Al Gore in An Inconvenient Truth, which is kind of funny that I did a callback to that. I didn't even remember that he had used this that phrase, but that's pretty telling. It's pretty. It's a quote from Upton Sinclair about it's difficult to get a man to understand something if his salary depends on his not understanding it. But there's an hour. Gotcha. There's a little under 2 minutes left. I'm gonna show that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about this and continue the article, which is really interesting about like who he's tied to and where he's coming from and who's funding him. So what a surprise!
Coolio.
Probably not Coolio.
So what are the problems I discovered? 2 basic issues. First, they don't know what data they have, where it lives, or where it came from, and so, unsurprisingly, they can't protect it. And this leads to the second problem, which is the employees then have to have too much access to too much data and to too many systems. You can think of it this way, which is it doesn't matter who has keys if you don't have any locks on the doors. And this kind of vulnerability is not in the abstract. It's not far-fetched to say that an employee inside the company could take over the accounts of all of the senators in this room. Given the real harm to users and national security, I determined it was necessary to take on the personal and professional risk to myself and to my family of becoming a whistleblower. I did not make my whistleblower disclosures out of spite or to harm Twitter. Far from that, I continue to believe in the mission of the company and root for its success. But that success can only happen if the privacy and security of Twitter's users and the public are protected. In accepting an executive position at Twitter, I made a personal commitment to Mr. Dorsey, the board, the greater public, and myself that I would drive the changes needed at Twitter to protect the users, the platform, and democracy. That's what I'm continuing to do here today. I stand by the statements I made in my lawful disclosures, and I am here to answer any questions you may have about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
So that's an interesting statement. I don't think it's terribly a surprise to too many that they've got gaping holes in their security.
Phrasing.
Okay, but here it's Mudge, not is his nickname, by the way. So former security chief again. Now this is in the Associated Press, and we know sometimes they like to frame narratives. But again, what they're saying is that they're vulnerable to exploitation by teenagers, thieves, and spies, and put the privacy of its users at risk. Right? So, At the beginning of the hearing, it wasn't clear exactly what Zatko, who was fired by Twitter, was trying to accomplish. Then he opined that the FTC and SEC did not have the necessary capacity to oversee big tech. Go to your humble correspondent. This translates as a call to staff up big government as regulatory bodies, right? That portion of the testimony, coupled with his team's targeted leaks to the likes of CNN and the Washington Post, coupled with the strange reality of a whistleblower being celebrated by a bipartisan Congress, is certainly cause for suspicion. I hope you got red flags going off on your side.
Just big, giant air quotes.
Yeah. So Zatko and his handlers, again, this is from Wired Magazine. It says, the recipients were the Washington Post and CNN, and their stories went live under a shared embargo on August 23rd. He gave interviews to both organizations, which treated him lovingly. The Post photographer even captured an artsy shot of him in his mirror reflection, full of Oracle vibes. Ugh. So I did a little bit of research into the organization handling Mr. Mudge. He's being represented by a media relations and legal team from a nonprofit called Whistleblower Aid, which represents itself as an outfit that seeks to supply attorneys to whistleblowers from both government and the private sector to, quote, protect us from law breaking that we may never learn about. This is the same organization that represented Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen, who also didn't pass the whistleblower smell test. Haugen, like Mudge, is paradoxically blowing the whistle to government and against a private entity. Like Mudge, she advanced an implicit statist agenda. Following her testimony, Haugen commenced a speaking tour that was funded by a who's who of left-wing billionaires, including George Soros's Open Society Foundations. Again, this is not a dog whistle against Soros, but every time anything like this shows up, Open Society seems to have its ugly head somewhere close by. So, here's the person, the sum of us, and this is really interesting. You have a question for famous whistleblower Frances Haugen? Okay, this is an organization that is linked and that put on an organization, that put on a thing. So, now here's where things get really diabolical. Whistleblower aid played a key role in the first impeachment of Donald Trump. Didn't that have to do with like Ukraine stuff? Yep. So, this goes back again, March 4th. We're proud to have represented the whistleblower who spoke out against Trump's inappropriate efforts to withhold assistance from Ukraine. Yep. All right. Again, this was from Rolling Stone. Oof. So,
I remember that.
Right?
Yes.
Me too.
Yep.
It was one of the most significant whistleblower disclosures in American history, and we couldn't be more proud of our work in the case. Watch the behind-the-scenes story of how W. Baidlaws and Andrew Bakaj and Mark Zaid ESQ assisted the Ukraine whistleblower, right? So this is from WBAID Law, Whistleblower Aid Law. Whistleblower aid provided both counsel and media relations work to an anonymous intelligence community employee who's been identified by Congress as CIA official Eric Ciamarella, who alleged that President Trump pressured the Ukrainian government to accept a quid pro quo and launch an investigation of Joe and Hunter Biden. If you're a news junkie, surely you know the ins and outs of this story, right? But if you don't, here's a short summary. Much of the alleged quid pro quo scandal was based on hearsay, sourced to a phone call between Trump and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. No evidence surfaced of any monetary payment or governmental policy that supported the allegations. Okay. The transcript of the phone call between Trump and Zelensky was eventually released, and it did not show anything particularly scandalous or abnormal. Zero evidence ever emerged back to the claims sourced to Ciamarella. But despite these shortcomings, Congress found the votes to impeach Trump over the manufactured scandal. So, who's the tech billionaire helping the Facebook whistleblower take on one of the world's most powerful companies? Pierre Omidyar. Our friend Pierre. We've covered him
like
before.
A PayPal guy.
He is part of the PayPal Mafia eBay founder. So he was actually like one of the... He was the granddaddy of them all because it was his platform that even facilitated the need for PayPal in the first place. And then he created PayPal. And he sat on the board of PayPal. So, this was a Glenn Greenwald article from more than a year ago talking about Pierre Omidyar's financing of the Facebook whistleblower campaign. Reveals a great deal. And I'm not going to go into this, and you can certainly read the Glenn article. I'll link to the Jordan Schachtel article for the dossier in the show notes and in the Substack afterwards. But beyond Ciamarella, whistleblower aid has represented countless additional whistleblowers, such as the Vinbin twins, who of course accused the former president of a variety of unproven misdeeds. Whistleblower aid is backed by Pierre Omidyar, a statist ideologue whose doctrine advocates for a technocratic tyranny in the form of stakeholder capitalism. He's a major Democratic Party donor. Omidyar is also known in politics as the money man behind countless Never Trump campaigns. What a shock. He's also behind the Maidan coup, but that's another story. Here's an article from 2020 where he's a longtime donor to leftist causes and in the same league as Steyer, Soros, and Bloomberg. And he's got TDS. So is the outfit behind the Ukraine collusion hoax funded by a far-left mega-donor really representing authentic whistleblowers, or is something more nefarious in the works? And that is the end of this piece. And he's asking questions and pointing out his observations.